Hey, it's Patrick, and we're back on Break Time University with the original podcast guest, David Noor. Welcome to 2025.
It is good to be the OG and that new year, exciting new year. And I'm so excited about all that you're doing with Break Time, portfolio, conglomerate. Thanks for having me, as always.
It's great to have you back, and I'm sure like you and I, we've talked about our objectives and goals for 2025. Uh, Rattle off a couple of yours, just some things that, what's your goals in 2025 before we kind of dig into some topics? Expand upon
Uh,
what you want to get done this year.
so mine are really three. Number one, you know my story. For years, I've been a lone wolf, and I can move fast, and I don't need anybody. And it's the old adage: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a team. So Patrick, my number one priority is I want to continue to surround myself with just exceptional people. You and I and the audience has heard a lot about DEI. Uh, but I'd say 4 or 5 months ago, I read about MEI, merit, uh, excellence, and intelligence. And these are the people that will level you up. And so, number one, I want to continue to attract exceptional people to our team. Two, as you know, we've been working on our Avenir product. Get that product, continue to move it forward. No founder is ever going to be happy with the product they have. You always you want it better, you want it faster, you want it yesterday, but just you got to give yourself some grace. And so we want to make a really strong progress on our product. And then, the reason we exist are those customers where we deliver real value for. So I want to make sure we remain not you hear about customer satisfaction, you hear about even customer advocacy. I want to really embrace, I think, the Amazon mindset of a customer obsession. And Patrick, you're customer obsessed when you understand their problems, their challenges, their opportunities better than they understand it themselves. And I say it in those priorities, in that sequence. Without exceptional people, you're not going to move the product forward. Without exceptional people who are customer centric and customer obsessed, you're not going to understand the problems you're trying to solve, and you're not going to add value. So that's why the people part is so critical, and the culture part and the relationships are so critical. Then building a product not just you think is cool, but that solves a real set of problems. And if you think about where that comes from, it really is that customer obsession. So those are three high level goals and aspirations I have for this year.
It's funny you talk about knowing things better than people know themselves. And that's Stephen Jobs always said, people to know what they want. And just kind of rung right in my head when you say that, why what you teach and what you do is so valuable. And I still think, and as we're going to talk about in this episode, how we get lost sometimes. We just assume relationships happen, and you're going to be purposeful.
Yeah, and I still, as you know, even with the platform, I'm still coaching a lot of executives and teams. And one of the lessons we learned in the last 6 months is not just building a really awesome, even AI technology. You still need change management. You still need relationship economics as a training and development kind of runway. And one of the things I often talk about is be intentional. Be intentional about the relationships you choose to invest in. And I think that intentionality gets often lost. And you're right. We make assumptions. I was talking to a chief revenue officer over the holidays, and it was over a cocktail, but it was like, either a lot
Nothing
of
wrong with
deals.
that.
But
We're,
and you get really candid over some kind
yeah.
liquid motivation. But over a cocktail, we were talking about some deals slipped, some deals didn't materialize. because they had assumed that they had the relationship or they had, and I want you and your audience to think about three things: relationship depth. How well do we really know someone?
Hmm.
Relationship health. What have we done to nurture it? What have we done? Like if you've got a brown thumb and you kill every plant you ever bring into your office or your surrounding, right? You got to work on the health of the plant. Well, relationships are the same way. They need feeding, they need nurturing, they need care, they need pruning, right? And they will catch a disease. It's called misunderstanding or miscommunication, right? And you gotta fix that, right? Otherwise, that plant's not gonna thrive, and neither is that relationship. So relationship depth, relationship health, and relationship relevance. If people are not returning your calls and emails, you're not a priority. You or their perceived value of you is not a priority. So, and no amount of push, no 4,870-second phone call or email or LinkedIn message is going to change that. So, are you intentional? Are you gauging the relationship depth, health, and relevance to move key boulders, key initiatives, key ideas forward?
Well, you talk about intentional MEI in those three aspects. And
Mm.
folks, I had a 90-day head start on my 2025 goals when I attended the Relationship Economics Summit that David hosts, right there, showing right on his shirt. I had a little kick in the pants because you said something that just stuck out, and I remember sitting in there, and I don't want to call it an epiphany, but it was the slap across the face to say you need to really take inventory of where you're spending your time. And something you said, and I think it's one of the most valuable things as people start 2025 is not just what I'm about to say, but really evaluate where you are in life and people and things you're working on. Just look at that, run it through that model and ask it where it stands. Because for me, 80% of my time when you talk about this 80% factor, I'm going to have you expand upon it, but I was looking at where I literally sat in the back of the room after and just we were taking a break and everybody went outside and I sat down and took notes. And I started
I
writing
love it.
down and had an honest evaluation of where the hell I was spending my time. And I said, this has to stop. We're not going to accomplish goals and the vision that I have for the break time brands and where I want to go by not kind of applying that. So talk about the 80% factor that you
Yeah.
stressed in that meeting to me, candidly, career changing, maybe even business changing for what I've been working
So
on and what you and I have been working on together.
for the record, when you say kick in the pants, I want to clarify in a loving way, in a
Yes, very
supporting
much.
way, right? So it's a tough love conversation. Patrick, I've always said, give me somebody's checkbook and their calendar, and I can tell you about their portfolio of relationships. So if you think about it a second, relationships that are important to us, relationships that are meaningful to us, relationships that are impactful to us, relationships that get us, we tend to spend time and resources on.
Hmm.
And I'm always curious of who are you spending time and resources on and with and for what purpose or outcome. And so I've long believed that this idea of what I call your ideal relationship profile. Who gets you? Who gets your value add? Who appreciates you? Who's responsive to you? Who pushes you to become the best version of you?
Hmm.
Who raises the bar on how you show up and what you accomplish, and do you feel better about yourself because you're around these people, or are you surrounded by people who suck the life out of you?
Hmm.
Because I don't know about you, kind of the headwind most of us face on a daily basis is tough enough. I don't want to do it with my hands and one leg tied behind my back trying to, run uphill.
Right.
And we do that to ourselves by spending time, effort, and resources, right? Capital, time, effort, right?
Mhm.
With people who are not a good fit for good people. They could even have good intentions, but they're not our expectations aren't aligned, our outcomes aren't aligned. We're spending, they don't get us, they're not on the same. Sometimes, I don't know about you, I often have to ask people, are we in the same conversation?
Mhm.
Because the conversation I'm in is headed this way, the conversation you seem to be in is headed in a different way. And that's not productive. That's not conducive to a common vision or a common outcome that I want to achieve. So we all make plans. We all have priorities. We all, a lot of us make goals, particularly this time of the year, right?
Yeah.
It's very, it's a societal norm to have aspirations. And if you peel back a lot of these aspirations, they're focused on what I'm going to do, maybe even how I'm going to do it. Whenever we face a challenge or an opportunity, we often think about what I'm going to do and maybe how to do it. We don't ask enough who questions.
Well,
Who is who is
keep
most
going.
relevant to that goal? Who is most enabler of that goal? Who's going to help me remove obstacles? Who's going to accelerate? I want you to think of the 10x factor or a force multiplier. Who's going to be the rocket boosters attached to my shuttle to get me into orbit? Those are the relationships you want to prioritize. Those are the relationships you want to spend bulk of your time and effort with. Those are the relationships you want to surround yourself with because those are the people that are going to propel you forward. They're gonna lift you up. They're gonna, again, whether it's that tough love kick in the pants, or they're gonna hold you accountable, or they supplement or complement what you may bring to the table. But in essence, these are the people that lift us up.
Couldn't
Conversely,
agree more.
yeah, conversely, they're people that just are anchors and hold us back. And we're not at our best. We're not efficient or effective with our time, effort, or resources, right? And those are the people that you want to minimize to the extent possible and spend less time with because I've been looking for the eighth day of the week for a while. I haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
So we all have that limited capacity. How do we make sure we maximize it? So my litmus test back to your 80% is I color code my calendar. I want to make sure at any given week that this fluctuates, and some weeks I'm better than others, and none of us are perfect at this. But I want to make sure at least 80% of my time, my bandwidth, and this is beyond my family, this is beyond personal friends, professional relationships. I want to make sure 80% of it is spent with people who are going to bolster my success. They're going to bolster me up and push me to again, elevate and amplify what I do, not drag me down, not, disturb my peace or people that I'm gonna butt heads with or whatever the issue is, right? So that's my goal is at least 4 out of 5 days, ideally 4.5 out of 5 days. I want to make sure I'm surrounded by great relationships that really raise the bar on who I am and what I accomplish.
Well, I'm going to comment on something that you said because it's if you're planning your 2025 or you made your goals for 2025, go through what just re-listen to this whole segment, not maybe just once, re-listen to it twice, maybe even three times, and be honest with yourself and go through that epiphany that I had sitting in that room. That it starts with you got to be honest with yourself. If you are
Mm.
lying to yourself, you're going to end up lying in a lot of other places. But
Yep.
evaluate, because as you said, that eighth day of the week doesn't exist.
Mm.
And so you have to make some tough decisions that who's going to help you get to your goals. And often that's where I see people miss, where my best times and my worst times can lie strictly in what you just described.
Yeah, unequivocally. You have to start with, I don't know if you've seen this, that there's this viral video where I think a teacher has a glass container. And first he puts, these big boulders and rocks in, and he
Yep.
says, "Is there any more room?" And they say no. Then he puts little pebbles in that fills in the little cavities. Then he says, "Is there any more room?" They say no. Then he puts sand in and it fills even more cavities. Then he says, is there any more room? No. Then he pours water in and it truly becomes full. So I tend to think about my world similarly, which is you got to start with the big boulders, right? What are the big things I want to accomplish this year? And for most of us, that honestly can't be more than 3 to 5 things. And again, I'm not assuming, I'm praying for health and safety and security of the family and loved ones and all that. I'm talking specifically about business outcomes we're after, right? So,
Yep.
what are the big boulders? You asked me, I gave you kind of my three. Then, obviously, even with those three, there are a lot of dependencies, right? A lot of other things have to happen to kind of get us there. Those are the pebbles. So I kind of then list those. And then even those, I've got to do these next three things to get to that pebble. That's your sand, right? So you can see the key is one page, right? I again, I'm a big fan of Steve Jobs, and he reiterated simplifying something is a lot more difficult than most people imagine. So
Yes.
we can all come up with war and peace dissertations that are 75 pages that nobody will ever read. But how hard is it to put all of this on one page? Because if it's one page, mine is sitting here right in front of me. Don't laugh. I also tape a copy of it to my bathroom mirror. So when I shave or when I get it ready in the morning, I kind of see throughout the year what are the big boulders? What are some of the pebbles? What's the sand? And then the liquid to me is all about fluidity. It's all about adaptability. It's all about can you be agile enough and pivot if something changes? Again, none of us saw the pandemic coming. So the next big disruption may not be a pandemic. What if it was cyber? What if it was something with our grid? What if it was something, again, still out of our control? So you got to be fluid enough to be able to kind of move as you need it. So, A, pick those big boulders and the things you want to try to accomplish. Then, like I said, next to each one, and again, we're doing this for our small team as well. Who are the most critical relationships for not just accomplishing each of those, but think of time value of money, accelerating
Hmm.
the accomplish. If I can get something done in 3 months instead of six, that's valuable. If I can get something done in 3 months instead of a year, that's incredibly valuable. So who are the individuals? Same idea. You can't have more than typically 3 to 5 people associated with any one line, but who are the people? And if they're, ideally there's more than just one person through the whole thing. Like my Patrick goes on every line of what I'm trying to accomplish.
Right.
Okay, great. Great. We know Patrick. Who else? Who else is instrumental to that success? Who else is instrumental to you accelerating those outcomes you're after? And that one page, again, goes in front of me and it goes in my bathroom mirror. I also have a copy that as I travel, I have it with me. But the goal is, again, be intentional about not just the goals, the aspirations, the outcomes, the impact, the value you're after, and then the relationships that are instrumental, that are critical, but also could, and your perception could change. That's why you want to be fluid. You want to be right dynamic about this. I believe Tom, Sam, and Hector are the three people I need for this. I meet with Tom and realize, you know what? Tom is retiring or Tom is not the right person. It's okay to scratch Tom out and put Beth in.
Hmm.
But you better have at least relationships for each line item that you believe will accelerate your ability to get to those outcomes.
Couldn't agree more. So you've talked about a lot of things, and it all really comes down to where are you investing your time and with who? And I'm going to use a Norism here to help folks, and I'm going to have you expand upon it as we wrap up this segment. You say associate yourself with people that are your champions in rooms that you're not in. Talk about that more in depth because to me, when you evaluate who you are talking to and when you're making that list that you described, that is a very important question that I ask myself and something I've gone through and my business partners, you included, we've gone through in the last quarter. Expand upon
Yeah,
that.
Patrick, I've always believed we all need supporters, right? People who support us, people who believe in us, and we need sponsors. And sponsors, a lot of times, are in rooms, in not just the proverbial rooms, but in physical rooms, in conversations we may not be in.
Mhm.
You want in a meeting, in a conversation, you want other people to put you on a pedestal. Much more importantly, in conversations you're not in, you want people to be advocates. You want people to be champions. You want people to be supporters of you. I've seen this. I've sat in rooms where, let me just give you a scenario. Think of an accounting or an engineering or a law firm that is looking to promote a group of young people to partners. There's always more candidates than the available partners. And let's just use, there's 20 people that have been nominated. They're all high performers, they're all high potentials, but we only have five positions. It reminds me of, think of America's Got Talent, right? Here's all these talented people. Who are we going to push to the final episode, or who we're going to give the golden buzzer to?
Right.
And right,
Right.
so you in those conversations you're not in. You want people who are championing your unique value add. You want people championing not just Patrick is a great guy, that's great, but, and I often say, build a preference for your skills, build an insistence for the way you build relationships. So this is how that conversation goes. We need Patrick on this project because he's technically very competent. He knows more about break rooms than anybody else I know. That's a preference for your technical skill, your knowledge. We have to have Patrick on this project because he's amazing at building great teams. You hear the difference?
Yes, completely.
One is a one is a preference for your technical skill. Susan has amazing accounting skills. Sam is a fantastic attorney. John knows more about employee benefits than anybody else we know. Those are all technical skills. They're knowledge. They're right. When somebody says we have to have Pete on this team because, and it's typically the non-tangible, it's typically the behaviors, it's typically the way Pete builds great. He is fantastic with customers. Oh my gosh. He gets a team, people will go through walls for Pete.
Hmm.
Those are
Yeah.
all relational examples. You want to build that brand. You want to build people insisting on you for the way you build, nurture, sustain great relationships inside your company or external to it. So when you do that, you're building this brand called you that then people can get behind. And champions and sponsors of yours start advocating on your behalf for promotions, for great projects, for initiatives, for capital investments, for, let's send John to that new territory, whether domestic or international. You know what? We've been thinking about a London office. Why don't we send John to open that London office for us? I promise you, it's not because John knows that technical skill well, it's because he's adaptable and he can hit the ground running and he gives us the best possible opportunity to succeed. And if you think about why we all champion, we all sponsor others, A, it makes us look good. Let's be honest. B, it typically de-risks whatever that initiative is. We deeply believe in the ingredients that that person brings. Uh, we believe we have a vested interest in seeing them succeed. So think about why you would recommend anybody, whether it's a plumber or someone you really believe would de-risk that initiative, that project, that it's because they've created a vested interest in your success. I don't want to recommend a plumber to my next door neighbor if the person's going to do a crappy job.
Right. Yeah, because
Just
you
like, just
live right
like
next door to them. Right.
it's going to end up with egg on my face. So I'm not going to
Right.
do that. Similarly, I'm not recommending someone for a job or a promotion that in my heart, I don't believe, having gotten to know them, having worked with them, that they would succeed in that position. So the onus is on you. What are you doing to create champions and sponsors? What are you doing to give people a chance to get to know you? What are you doing to see that they can trust you? What are you doing with your exceptional work? This just can't be talked about. A lot of people talk a great game. You want proof? Start reading people's LinkedIn profiles. I am this fabulous right person. I've done amazing things. People can talk all day long. Who has experience sitting next to you, working with you on that project, who'll say, "Oh my God, Patrick will do anything. Patrick will bend over back." I've seen the man bend over backwards to get that done. We have to have Patrick on this, right? Those are the people you want as sponsors, as champions, because they have direct knowledge, direct experience in having worked with you and seen how you create value, deliver value, set yourself apart from others.
Well, David, you've been on our segments before, and we always do a last minute roundup in each episode. And so I'm going to start, and we're going to record a couple more today, everybody. This is a recording fest for us. But the spirit of this was 2025 goals. And my break time minute is I'm going to go all the things I took, and I made some notes as we're talking here. I circled the word intentional because to me, intentional stresses discipline. And where I go back to since I sat in early October in northern Georgia, and I cannot stress to you enough, you should sign up for that, whether you're no matter where you are in your career path. But I want to, even for the folks, no matter where you are, whether you're a line employee, somebody that's in a blue collar environment, gray collar, white, you're sitting in the executive office, the executive wing of the building, the difference between you executing and not, and what David has talked about here, is you got to be intentional about this. And something you said earlier, you talk about you have goals written and posted in different places in bathroom right next to you. I have an alarm that goes off at 12:21 every day. It's past the halfway point, if you want to call it that. Uh, why 21 minutes after is I was married on the 21st of August. There was two of us before there was one, and it's just a symbolic thing because that's why I work, is to provide my wife and family that's what I do. That's what
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
You got to be intentional and be deliberate, disciplined, all the fancy words that all going to lead to execution. And if you want to hit your goals this year, you got to be intentional and intentionally do what David talks about here. And when you have that wake up call, your goals, I hope whether you've done them, you're going to do them, you listen to this, go through this exercise 2, 3 times and go win. So that's my break time minute for this episode. David, what would be yours? This to say, this is that one thing or a minute or plus or minus that
I
people can
want,
take
yeah,
away.
if your audience has ever played a sport or competed in anything, I want you to think of the intensity with which you trained. And if you've ever ran hills, right?
I,
How
I,
how
I did this weekend.
did you casually jog up that hill or did you hustle? And if you notice,
Disaster.
right, for all of us, it's
Right.
really easy to get out and train on a beautiful day, bright sun and 70 degrees, right? It's easy to do that. The people who set themselves apart get out and train when it's raining. Get out and train when it's cold. Get out and train with that same intensity. and they're the ones that hit their goals. They are very intentional. So I want you to bring that mindset of how are you running up that hill? Are you walking? Are you jogging or are you sprinting? Because people who move with a purpose are the ones that are intentional and they're much more likely to get to their goals.
When you say that, I mean, I ran hills this weekend, and I had really two very specific goals for the first quarter is 5,200 screens for Break Time TV right over my shoulder here. And I want to drop 15 pounds. And a lot of it came down to is I've spent so much time building a business, I forgot and was not being disciplined to diet and the routine. And you're saying that, and I remember running the hill this weekend, and I didn't go after it just half-ass or say I did it. I could literally like, I get probably had a facial expression when you said that that's what I want to do. And it's the difference between your success and not. It's the difference between average and good, good and great and frippin' extraordinary.
And
And
last time I checked, you're not going, you're not trying out for a professional sports team.
yeah,
Nobody's watching, right? It's that motivation that's within us that says, I am not gonna half-ass this workout, right? I'm not gonna walk, I'm not gonna jog, I'm gonna get after it. And it's because that light is within us to get in a better shape and accomplish the goals we want to do. Use that same intensity with your relationships. Be intentional about being responsive. Be intentional about proactively reaching out. Be intentional about, again, maximizing the value of your network. These are all the things that are going to set you apart from everybody else that sleeps in when the weather's not so nice, when we all should be getting up and get out and, get on the treadmill.
well, I'll even wrap this segment up by saying this. The Apple has that Apple Watch commercial that's out right now. I think it's Watch 10 or I mean, I have mine. I live on that thing and it's always going off. And it talks about National Quitters Day. If you have made your goals or you're going to, or maybe watch this so that when National Quitters Day come, you are running right through that with the tenacity. Because I've always said, and I'll wrap it up with this: the reason people fail or the reason people succeed all comes down to is, are you up to the task? Time management, attitude, skills, and knowledge. And if you spend your time with doing the wrong stuff with the wrong people, you will fail. It's just a prescription. You will be that quitter on National Quitters Day. And I can't stress to you enough, invest the time to what David's talked about here, and you'll see that. And no matter where you are in your business, if you're sitting on your break and you're watching this is a difference maker for you to execute in 2025. So David, thanks for spending the time with us in this episode. Looking forward to having you in the next one.
Great to see you, my friend.